This, our first guest, is a very funny comedian based in Chicago. She's been part of the Onion Comedy and Arts Fest, the Lady Laughs Festival. She ran quite a few shows out there, including Just Us Gals. She's open for some great people. Here she is, Clare Austen-Smith. Clare!
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hello, how are you faring?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. It's finally got nice out in Chicago, and I feel like, it's nice to see that. I guess that my words fail me.
Yes, well, it can be difficult. But Chicago, a place where I've had many a weird night, often brought on by some old style.
Mhm.
For a time, it was influenced by a very ill-advised mustache. And, whenever the evening ends up with me crying outside of a rainforest cafe, I know I'm in Chicago.
Well, there you go. And you made it downtown. That's where the Rainforest Cafe is. You're in the
Yes.
loop. So something must have gone wrong. You're not
Oh, it
together.
went very wrong, Claire. Now, how are your preparations for the solstice going?
Well, it's funny you bring this up because my mom is an artist and she dyes textiles and makes a lot of abstract vagina imagery in her work. And I guarantee you she's having like a women's group going down to having a socially distanced fire by the lake for the solstice whenever. Is that coming up soon? Should I know this?
Yes, this weekend. Yeah,
Okay, well, yeah, that's happening this weekend. She does it every year.
you have to. My gosh, I mean, if you're involved in that sort of enterprise with vaginal sculptures and fires down by the
Mhm.
water, that's an annual occurrence as far as I'm concerned.
You really can't afford to skip it.
No, no, you can't. Now, do you go to that kind of a thing?
No, I let her do her own thing. I'll do my
Okay.
own. I don't I don't know. I like the solstice. I think it's cool. I don't want to hang out with my mom's book club friends and like get topless.
No, no. Yes. Have you ever been at a party where you thought, gosh, this scene is just not for me, but you stick around anyway to see how it turns out?
Oh, totally. It's
Yeah.
like you kind of become a weird voyeur. You're like, I don't really want to talk to anybody, but I just kind of want to see.
Right. Just see how this pans out with these ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you grow up around that kind of thing? Was always this ritual?
Well, my mom's always been like a new agey, like the Miss of Avalon, like has books about Wicca. She describes herself as a recovering Catholic. So I
Ah,
feel like she's just gone full like, shiatsu massage therapist, Chinese medicine sort of hippie lady, which is great. I'm happy for her.
yeah. And the clothing. We don't have to make it all about your mother, but she's
It
dyeing.
already is. No.
The clothing, is it with textiles? Is that what she's doing? She's doing tie dye, that kind of thing.
Kind of. Well, she does like wall hangings and quilts and silk screen. So she'll silk screen her fabric and like sew it into a wall hanging. It's kind of abstract.
Yeah. Still with lady parts or anything.
It's like, she's expanded, but there's a lot of like diamonds and oval shapes that you can kind of see where she's going in like the vaginal imagery way, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Well, it's good to keep it active,
Yeah.
manifest some powerful female energy. It's always needed. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, speaking of female energy, is because you've made such funny videos recently. Some of them may be expressing a little bit of loneliness in quarantine. Are you lonely there? Is it?
Well, you mean the one where it was like, if someone broke into my house, I'd ask them to stay?
Yes, you were happy to be burgled.
Yeah, so happy to be burgled to see another human face. Well, I have to say, lonely feels like a stretch because I am at my parents' house. So I have been around people, which is, great, but I've never been more conscious of the generational divide until spending 4 months at home.
Yes, and yeah, can really bring some old feelings back to the surface, I bet.
Oh, totally.
Yes, but it's fun to process things. Now, you also have been doing these, you have a show that gives advice,
Yeah.
and explain that to me because people call in.
So, well, that's my dream. I would love to, have this sort of fan base to people who would call in for my advice or audio recorded. It would be very cool. But I ask people to send me, and whoever my host is, messages usually on social media, and then we read them and answer them on the show.
And what has been some of the questions that you've had to field?
So we've gone a really big range. I think one of my favorites was someone saying that every time they pee, they can't not pee on themselves, and like what to do. And I couldn't really have like we struggled with that question because we had so many more questions from that, like angles, what kind of toilet, like how are you standing, how much
Yes,
water are you drinking, like what's your pelvic floor tone like, there's like kind of a lot of variables in that one.
that's my always my first question when I meet somebody. What is your pelvic tone?
What is your pelvic tone? Everyone needs to talk more about their pelvic floor. And this way you can kind of see how I'm kind of regressing becoming my
Right, right. But do you feel naturally inclined to teach, to give advice?
mother. It feels narcissistic to say that, but I do love giving advice. And when I was growing up, I used to love reading the like Dear Abby or Ann Landers in the newspaper.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just thought it was fascinating. And I always toyed around with the idea of like an advice column before I was doing comedy. And so when the quarantine started, it felt like a natural progression to kind of take that old interest, and then the format works nicely for not being able to be around people, I think.
Yes. And what do you think is the best advice you've ever gotten?
Oh my God, go to therapy, probably.
It's valid.
It's broad. It like applies to all aspects of your life from there.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good, that's kind of a gateway advice, I think is
Yeah.
solid. Now, did I have it correct that you were once a teacher, though, or you maybe still are, and you taught sexual education?
Yeah, so I wasn't a straight up teacher. I worked for a nonprofit and I trained college students to teach sexual health education to ninth graders. So I kind of managed them in the classroom and would go. So it was like I taught the teacher, I suppose. And then sometimes if I was in a classroom and like the kids were rowdy or there was a volunteer that didn't show up, I would actually teach the workshop. But that wasn't all my day to day, but
Yeah.
essentially. Hmm.
It's such important work, and I remember vividly my middle school talk there. They brought all the fellas into the gym, and the gym teacher said, "Put some questions on a piece of paper," and then he put them in a hat,
Hmm.
and then he pulled out the question. And the first question, I won't tell you what it was, but it involved being intimate with a farm animal, and
Oh,
after that, they put the thing back and set the hat aside and made us go run laps, and that concluded all of my sex education.
you really got what you needed from that. It sounds like you
Yeah,
kind of
well,
learned a lot.
I did, and then the rest I picked up in the streets.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's like so everyone's got to pick up something from the streets, I think. Even if you
yeah,
have a progressive education, it's like you got to be able to put that knowledge into action, which I
yeah,
think is the failing of most sexual health education programs. They don't want kids to do that, but teens are going to do it with each other, and
yeah,
that's okay.
yeah. I also lived in a few communes, so
Oh
you
well,
pick
there
things
you
up here and there. So
go. It's part of the culture.
that's right. I'm a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
So well, what advice would you give me if I was considering dumping all of my crystals into a river?
I would say, well, one, like, don't litter. Don't make the crystals the litter.
Yeah.
Do they fit into the environment? You know?
I thought they were natural rocks anyway, so I did not consider the litter angle of this.
Well, if I have to tell you, if I found an amethyst floating in the Chicago River, I would be scared. I
You
would
would
be
be
like, I
scared.
would be like, how did this get here? It looks, pretty and clean and like not polluted.
Yeah. See, but you're attuned to nature, I can
Oh,
tell.
okay. Is it the overalls?
Yeah, I think so. There's
All
a
right.
definite farmer vibe.
Yeah, I'm going for it.
It's very nice. Well, this is, and do you get into that? Are you going to you have some candles around? Do you have some chakra t-shirts or anything?
No chakra t-shirts, but I do have some candles around somewhere, and I've been known to build an altar or two in my day.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a great scene out there in Chicago right now, too, isn't there? So many I mean, a lot of them have moved out and they're around the country, but they
Yeah,
started there in Chicago. It's a great scene that you've been a part of, I think, too.
I do love doing comedy here. I feel like coming up in Chicago is so wonderful because it is smaller, which of course is nowhere is perfect, but there I do feel like there can be a sense of community, and at least doing stand up, I really like being free of kind of the theater system where I don't have to do stand up like at a specific building or anything like that.
Yes. And what's the one thing you're going to run out and do once this is all over?
Oh my God, I want to go to the Hideout and I want to drink a glass of white wine.
Sounds
Very
good.
basic, but I do love the Hideout.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful idea. And, if I'm ever there, I'd love to maybe meet up at the Wiener Circle,
Oh my God,
snap,
of course.
snap a selfie at the Bean,
Mhm.
and,
I love
just
the
kind of
bean.
kind of hang out there. You going to be doing any shows, anything coming up?
I actually don't. I kind of put my show on hold in the last couple weeks. I just haven't felt that motivated. But yeah, so I guess no is the short answer to that question.
That's
But
okay. Valid.
yeah, it's like no one needs my POV right now, and that's okay.
Well, I'm glad that you were here to share it with us. And this has been a delight, Claire. Thank you so much for
Yes.
being here. Maybe we'll call into your advice show too. That would be
Oh,
great fun.
I love to, dive deeper into the crystals.
Yeah. And maybe just snap a picture of the ritual down at the lake. You don't have to spend a lot of time, but I'd love to see it.
I'll get some behind the scenes footage for you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, happy solstice to you, Clare Austen-Smith. Thanks
Thank
for
you so
being
much.
here.
Of course.
Delightful. Wonderful. Okay.